Hello and welcome to Distributed SQL Summit 2022. This is the fourth year that we are hosting this largest distributed SQL event in the world. The fourth year that we are bringing together the builders and the believers to meet, learn, and get inspired about all the awesome stuff that is happening in the world of databases. This year, the event has drawn more than twice the number of people as we did the last year. I believe that this is a testament to the growing significance and interest in distributed SQL. Did you know that the fastest rising database among the top 250, according to DB Engines over the past year, is a distributed SQL database, Yugabyte DB? Did you also know that more and more Fortune 100 companies around the world are using distributed SQL to power their business-critical applications, transactional applications? You're going to hear from some of them during the day. You're going to hear from Kroger, from GM, Wells Fargo, and several others. So definitely tune in and see how people are using distributed SQL. This year, we have planned a hybrid format for DSS. So we have the virtual event today, and this will be followed by a series of in-person regional events in Atlanta, the Bay Area, Detroit, London, and many other cities. So visit distributedsql.org to check out where these regional events are happening and how you can join the fun. The theme of the event this year is Ready for Any Future. How do you future-proof your data infrastructure so that you can be ready for anything that the future brings, right? And this is what we're going to be talking about. The main event today has 4 tracks. The first track is a series of tech talks that take you under the hood of distributed SQL and explain how things work. The second track is business and customer insights, where you will hear from people who are actually using distributed SQL in real-world production environments. You'll hear about best practices, lessons learned, things to do, things not to do, and so on. Now, I know that some of you would rather actually be building and doing things hands-on than listening to talks. For you, we have a whole track of workshops where you can actually go and try things hands-on. And then we have a 4th track, the Yugabyte University track, where you can go and learn and get certified. So we have something for just about everyone during the event today. This year, we're using a new platform, the Hopin platform. So if you are new to this platform, definitely check out the video that we have on the main page that explains all the different features and things that you should know to maximize your experience. We're going to have a very active presence on social media. So follow along DSS22 hashtag on LinkedIn and Twitter, and add your voice, add your comments, talk about what you found interesting in the conference, and so on. We also have several fun games planned for you. So definitely get into the Hopin platform when you have some time between sessions and enter for a chance to win prizes. All right, with that, let's get started. I am excited to bring Dai Clegg on next. Dai is going to be speaking with a panel of experts around the world about how distributed SQL is being used around the world. So you're going to hear from folks in Asia, hear from people in EMEA, as well as in North America. So with that, I will hand it over to Dai. Dai, take it away.
Welcome to Distributed SQL Summit. This is, in fact, the 4th Distributed SQL Summit. And when we first started doing this here at Yugabyte, DSS was kind of a bit of a niche activity. Maybe some people talking about it, very few people doing anything about it. It is amazing how far we've come just 3-4 years from that day. And we have a packed agenda for you today, full of not just heavy topics all around DSS, but also a bunch of customers talking who are actively deploying in production big distributed SQL applications. And we're not talking Fortune 500 here. We're talking Fortune 50. We've got at least a couple of those coming up during the day, I hope. And so we'll come back to that a little bit later. But before I do that, I want to introduce my panel here today. We have 3. Basically, these guys are the kind of the demigods of Yugabyte field. They're the top tech guys in each of our 3 geographic regions, Americas, EMEA, and Asia Pac. And let me introduce them for you. First, we have Vish Phaneendra, who's a guy in Asia Pac. Vish, do you want to wave and say hi?
Hey, hi, everyone.
Hi, Tim Faulkes in Americas. Tim.
Hi, everyone.
David Walker in EMEA, which is where I'm based, and I'm Dai Clegg, and I think what I do for Yugabyte is I do little panels like this, but I'm afraid I'm not in the same league as these three big hitters when it comes to the product and the use of that product in the field. And before we go any further, let me just explain what these guys' roles are. They all have pretty much the same role in the geographies, and they have two aspects to that role. Number one is they are the lead guy for customer success. They live and breathe making our customers successful using Yugabyte technology. But the other side of their role is like they're the edge computing of product management in Yugabyte. They're there to listen to the customers, to carry back to corporate, to carry back to engineering, and connect our customers with engineering for any issues, problems, priorities, use cases, workloads, where they want to be driving. Because one of the things about Yugabyte is we have a very clear vision of what distributed SQL is all about. But equally, we know that vision has to be absolutely tuned with what our customers want. Vish, can you sum up just in a minute or two how you see the momentum, the direction, and the state of the adoption of distributed SQL in your region?
It's been pretty awesome. Thanks a lot for all the stuff that you mentioned about DSS. I can't agree more with you. I've been with Yugabyte for about 18 months. I've seen a tremendous growth in terms of customers wanting to talk to us, because one of the common thing that in my prior life before joining Yugabyte, I'd spent a lot of time helping customers in the app modernization journey. So it's kind of important for customers to understand cloud native stack is not just about the application, but it's also about how do you simplify the data tier for cloud native applications, right? So we've been seeing a lot of traction. In fact, we have a couple of banks that have adopted Yugabyte, and they are actually running some of the applications in production. And we also have some retail customers that are running workloads in production. I think net app modernization is driving a lot of the adoption of this new distributed SQL. And there has been a tremendous interest of customers that are building new modern applications to kind of look at end-to-end stack. And that's where a lot of conversations has been so far within the region.
Tim, are you seeing the same kind of pattern in Americas?
Yeah, definitely. And from our side, we're seeing that it doesn't really matter what industry vertical you're in, whether you're in financial services, whether you're in retail, IoT, there's a push to get your data at a global scale, which has the no downtime. We all run in the cloud. And if you go and talk to Joe Public, they expect the cloud to always be there. They expect your applications to always be there. They don't know that regions go down and AZs go down. They want to make sure that your application is running in the way that Joe Public expects when you have the vagaries of these failing clouds behind the scenes that have this hardware that can and will go down. And something, the applications is really easy to make stable, but the SQL layer, the underlying database layer, because it's so stable, it's very, very difficult to get that to scale. And that's why I'm particularly excited about DSS and the direction that Yugabyte is going, when we're seeing this in every industry vertical. And the reason they need it is slightly different, whether it's consistency or reliability or the ability to serve the customer's data. But yeah, it's across every single vertical that we're talking to.
Yeah, Vish mentioned banking and retail, and they're two very obvious verticals for where always on is business critical. But you're right. I mean, we see it in multiple industries, and it may be just those guys may be early adopters in some cases. David, does that jive for you with your opinion?
It's interesting. I think we've reached a stage in the market now where people are coming together. We did the whole infrastructure modernization and move to the cloud, and then we saw the app modernization. And people have realized that using traditional technologies is leaving their database behind in the wrong place. And they want all of that features, that breadth, as both Tim and Vish have said, they want to be able to have this always on scalable database, which is deployed and resilient and all of those great things. And what encourages me so much about what we're seeing from people is that people are going out looking for this type of solution. They're looking for something which is going to be cloud agnostic, which is going to be scalable, it's going to be resilient. It's going to have things like a Postgres interface because that's where everything's going. So, yeah, it's almost a set of writing down the search terms that people are coming to and why distributed SQL is doing it now. Yeah, if those were your set of search terms, I want scalability, I want resilience, I want to modernize my database, and I want a Postgres API. Hey, come to the right place. This is the conference for you.
Yeah, because I'm interesting you say about Postgres compatibility day, because we've got a session today digging down into Postgres compatibility, because I know that's an issue well, it's a topic that's talked about by everybody who's in distributed SQL, and it means different things to different people. So I think that certainly that's a topic in a session that I think should be very interesting to anybody who has aspirations to using Postgres. And that leads me to my next question, actually, because I talked earlier about the agenda, and I'd quite like to hear from you guys. What are your top picks of the things that you're going to be following up on? You're going to be dialing into later today. Tim, can I come back to you? Have you got any particular recommendations or sessions that that really drive you? Because you
absolutely. There's a couple. I mean, there's a lot of good content in the lineup. There's a couple of ones that I'm particularly keen about. The first one I'm going to call out is there's a data modeling session, and it doesn't matter whether it's SQL or CQL. Data modeling is one of those things that is so crucial to customer success. If you get it wrong, it doesn't matter how good the underlying technology is. You're going to have a terrible application. And most people sort of assume that the database is magical and it will make everything magically work for you. And it will to a point, but the data modeling is really pushing the envelope on top of that and making sure that your applications behave and perform in the way that you really want them to. So I'm really excited about that. And I work closely with the person presenting that, and they have a huge amount of industry experience. So that's going to be a really good session. Really looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
I'm also very, it's one of those things.
I'm old school data modeling, me from three decades ago on relational modeling. So I'm absolutely on board with that. But it's a very different story now than it was then, isn't it? Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's great, because it's different in a distributed fashion than it is in a monolithic fashion. And that's one of the biggest transitions that I see people having problems making, because they go, oh, well, this just worked in Postgres. Well, that's great. But now you've got a network in the middle and all sorts of things happen which make a difference. So that's going to be a great session. The other one I'm really particularly looking forward to is the Charles Schwab session. Financial services, my background is financial services. I've actually done some work with them, and they're doing really good things, moving information off the mainframe and legacy applications into distributed SQL. They have a vision of where they're going in financial services and what sort of resiliency they want. Really interesting session coming up. I'm really looking forward to hearing what they have to say on that one.
Yeah, I think database modernization and migration from established platforms is a common theme for a lot of our customers, and I think we really have to be on top of that, because if we can't help people migrate, then frankly we're making life so hard for them, and indeed for us, because they won't love us so much. And David, you had, I think, something to say. One of your picks on sessions was about helping customers migrate.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tim's kind of touched on both of my themes, if you like. The first one is a talk that I picked out is one on Yugabyte Voyager, which is our data migration tool, because as we've just been discussing, moving data is an important feature of these things. And I think the fact that as a business, we've recognized how important it is and what we're constructing to help people make that journey is really critical to it. And I'm particularly interested in it around, we're working with a prospect in London at the moment to actually do this and bring this together and bring it into reality for them. And it's been engaging to be part of that process. But to see all the features and understand what's coming is a great thing. And then I suppose the second one, if I can, is just to pull back on something that Tim said. I'm also, like him, got a financial services background, and I was honoured to lead the team that did the Temenos high water benchmark there, speaking as well. But coming from that sort of background and doing the reality of deploying big systems in banks is all about security and encryption and how you manage these systems in a reliable way. It's not just that it can scale and be resilient. It's got to be secure and confidential data and all these things. And I think probably one of the things that challenges people when they look at a new database, although we've been around 6-7 years now, is, are you secure? You know how to do it in Postgres, you know how to do it in Oracle, and you're going to engage with your security team, the CISO, and bringing in a new database. Well, that raises questions. And so that and the work that we're doing together with these big organizations already means that the security and encryption talk is going to be really interesting, because that's going to help people who are deploying systems engage with the CISOs in their organization and get and understand how to answer those questions, which are really critical to successful long-term deployments in organizations.
Vish, do you pick the same ones as these guys? Have you got something else for us?
Not really. There are a lot of sessions to actually watch, like what you guys were saying. Yes, there is a great lineup of speakers. I think one of the common thing, because when customers go into this modernization journey, you can't really have a huge learning curve around learning new databases, or I have my application running in a distributed fashion, but then my database is still running on a single node database, which is tightly coupled with infra, then it makes it really difficult for them. So what I feel is, it's important, like what David and Tim touched on, how do you kind of get them to understand an end-to-end spectrum of how to build a cloud-native stack, starting from all the way app till down all the way to infra, like even database playing a part in terms of how it scales, how it provides the consistency and resiliency, and being able to, especially, we talked earlier about some of the banks, right? Now, banks are going regional and global. Now, when you talk about this, it's important to be able to have data locality, where you want to keep data in country, and yet you're able to provide that so-called performance, right? So for that, what I feel is been working with a guy Yogi in the region in Asia. So I personally picked harnessing Yugabyte ecosystem solutions to build global scale apps. It's all about how do you build an app. Even if it is a local thing, you start with that, and how do you how can you scale seamlessly across regions, across geographies, and being able to run this on a multi-cloud environment, and being able to provide that strong consistency with performance and simplifying the operations. So these are some of the critical things that is required, and having that end-to-end stack visibility makes it easier. So for that, I would pick the end-to-end stack of harnessing Yugabyte and ecosystem solutions.
I think, there's just a ton of stuff in all of those tech sessions. If I'd be overwhelmed if I had to go through all of that. But so I think it's really very helpful for you guys to pick out the highlights and why those are important. So for people who are joining us today, if you've got issues about availability, issues about compatibility with Postgres, if your drivers are in these areas, then hopefully our guys have given you some guidance. I'm going to finish with.
Before you jump into that, just remember that you get some of the advantages of not only the live sessions, but lots of them be recorded and available afterwards as well. So you can consume the. I know it's overwhelming. When I looked at the agenda, it is very overwhelming. But
too intense.
Take your time and pull out the ones that you want.
Yeah, I think that's a key to success today. But before we go off agenda, I'm going to just throw in my selections. I would have picked the Voyager one, David, the same as you did, because I think that is very important. But I think my backup was, as I mentioned before, was the Postgres compatibility. I think that's very, is vital for almost all of our customers now. And then on the customer side, I thought about the 10 cents one because I think that's really interesting, because that's about global gaming. And that means about delivering low latency all around the globe. It means being very concerned about things like data sovereignty and data residency. And those are big challenges. Where they're applicable, those are big challenges. And I was kind of very interested in that one. So I'll probably do that session. But I also want to pick up on the Kroger session, because that's something that I was involved in that tangentially last year. And that's interesting because Vish, to the theme you talked about, they were doing the app modernization, done infrastructure modernization, as David says, they've done app modernization with database modernization. They tried to do it with Postgres, but a single node, and that just wouldn't scale and didn't give them the confidence of availability they needed. And so they switched to Postgres to give them greater confidence, better availability, and of course, greater.
You mean they switched to Yugabyte?
Yugabyte.
Please.
Sorry, guys. That was definitely ends up on the cutting room floor, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had to move it to Yugabyte in order to break out from the limitations of scaling and the problems of high availability from a monolithic database.
I think Dai was just saying Postgres just to see if everyone is listening.
Yeah, I'm not sure they are.
No, believe me, I spend a lot of time trying to ignore Dai. We do these far too often.
And he rarely manages it. So I think we're kind of running up to the top of our time. So I'm going to wrap up here, because I'm going to pull out the themes that I heard all of you talk about in different ways, and that I think come to the, if you like, bubble to the top of the pile. And one of those is about always on, as I think you said, Tim. You know, the expectation nowadays, and it's not just in some of the industries, the highly regulated industries where, like, for example, banking, where availability is almost a regulatory compliance issue. It's in, as you said, Tim, across all industries. And I was talking about my experience at Kroger with that. And I think compatibility is important. And Voyager, this migration is important because, you know, although plenty of people are building new apps, microservices apps on distributed SQL databases, the fact is that 90% of the apps, 90+% of the apps that need to carry on running, need to be modernized, are actually running on older databases. And so actually business success for large organizations, for enterprises around the world, and I think, you know, you all brought this out, business success comes from the ability to partner with somebody who can not just say, well, here's the Summit Uplands of distributed SQL, but help people to get there in terms of database modernization, in terms of data and application migration, in terms of familiarity and compatibility of the programming languages. I'm done. I think we have perhaps very little time left, but any last words from you, David? You've always got a last word.
No, I'm just hope everybody enjoys this as much as I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure I will.
I think we've said enough. On with the show.
Cool.